Welcome to GreenBiz Studio. I'm Kori Goldberg, Circular Economy Manager at GreenBiz, and I'm joined today by Maria Gorsuch-Kennedy, Director of Supply Chain Sustainability at Cisco. Hi, Maria. Great to have you here today.
Hi, Kori. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So today we're discussing Cisco's efforts to build a responsible supply chain and transition to a circular model for a just and sustainable future. Maria, can you start by telling me a little bit more about your role and where you're seeing successes integrating the E and the S of ESG into the supply chain?
Yeah, sure, Kori. So I lead the supply chain sustainability team, as you mentioned, and we are looking to protect the environment and promote human rights all along the supply chain, from the extraction of minerals or raw materials to the manufacture of the product and the return at the end of its useful life. So when we're talking about the integration of E and S, those things are deeply intertwined, again, all along that value chain, right? You can't really separate environmental from social in today's world, whether it's a specific point in the supply chain like extraction, to whether it's a big issue like climate that affects every phase of supply chain and affects vulnerable populations and all of us globally. But, it's interesting, like water is one of the ones that comes to mind when we talk about the intersection of E and S, because I think a lot of folks think about that as an environmental issue, which certainly it is. But there's also huge social components to this as well. So for us here at Cisco, we look at this, what we do is we actually say, okay, which are the commodities, for example, in our supply chain that are high water consumers? We map those supplier sites against hot water stressed regions, right? Basically, where are they located? If they're using a lot of water, are they in a water stressed location? And then we target those supplier sites for engagement, right? On a few things. Are they reporting their water accurately? Are they, really looking to conserve? Are they following the proper protocols for WASH, like for hygiene and water usage within their operations? And then what are they discharging? Are they avoiding pollution? And then also, are they engaging with the communities around them and stakeholders who are also consumers of the water in that particular river basin? So by doing this, we're looking at it holistically as a business perspective, right? From a business continuity, the concern about water shortage, to the environmental concern about preserving this natural resource. And then, of course, the social component, which is how are we looking at this in the context of the community that's also, dependent on this natural and key resource.
Now, obviously, the impact of a business, as you've hinted at, goes well beyond its four walls, and everyone has a role to play here. So I'm curious how you're specifically working with suppliers to integrate ESG into the supply chain.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, of course, how our products are made matters to us. This aligns with our values, right, at Cisco. And it also is important to our customers and our partners, our shareholders and other stakeholders. But what we do is, what we try very hard to do is to shape and use industry standards or global standards for reporting, for example. So everything from the Responsible Business Alliance Code of Conduct to CDP reporting standards for water and greenhouse gas. Because our point is we want to have universal standards that suppliers can easily apply and use for multiple customers. We don't want lots of different protocols and they're just spending a lot of time answering customer questions. They can answer it once and then get to work, right? And then we do hold our suppliers accountable to this. Our procurement teams help us make sure that their suppliers are meeting our requirements and holding them accountable to that. But I think the other piece too is that it's really most effective when you're collaborating on results and how do you drive change. And that's what we do to that today, but we're looking to do even more of that, right? How do we actually engage with our supply chain, our suppliers, the people who have the same goals as we do? How do we share those goals and really look at these systemic challenges and work together to address them? Again, whether it's climate, water, human rights, you name it, circularity. These are things that we can only succeed at if we really look at systemic change collaboratively.
Right, and sustainability and circularity have a lot of overlap, with circularity being this model to which we're working to transition the whole economy. Can you share some examples of how you've integrated circular thinking at Cisco?
Yeah. So at Cisco, we've actually implemented some circular design standards, right, that now are being applied to new products and packaging designs. And they have 5 pillars in them, right? One is modularity, sort of how you design it to be taken apart and, so components can be replaced. That's very closely aligned with how we design for disassembly, reuse, and repair, right? So those modular components can be taken out, repaired, or reused in future products. There's also packaging. How are we looking at the materials in that packaging? Are we right-sizing it using multi-packs? There's also the material use itself, right? Are we using the most sustainable material we can for a certain design? And then, of course, there's energy consumption, which is how we're using the most power efficient supplies, for example, and how do we actually make sure that we're not just being power efficient in the production, but we're being most power efficient when the product is in use, which is actually where a lot of the impact from our products comes. So, these are things that we've put into place, and we've actually embedded them into the design systems that we use at Cisco. And more than 5,500 engineers have been trained on these. There's this now it's in the system. So people actually have to apply this and we'll work on this as they put out a new design. So it's very exciting. At the same time, it's not a new concept for Cisco, right? So our UCS servers that we first designed 10 years ago was designed for modularity, right? This is not a new concept. Easily disassembled and reassembled using common tools. Today's version of that server includes plastic parts made of post-recycled resin and ships with recycled foam packaging. So while we've seen sort of this long history at Cisco of thinking about sustainability when we design, right, now it's really embedded in its core systems and processes and tools that we use in a way that allows us to leverage the expertise of our supply chain folks and engineers, but also really drive that to scale. It's very exciting.
So now we've talked about Cisco's work on both the social side of things and in regards to circularity. What opportunities do you see to involve your workforce in raising the profile of both circularity and human rights in business practices?
Yeah, so as I just touched on, I think the key thing is how do you take the goals that you have for ESG or for sustainability, whatever you want to call it, and how do you map that to the systems, tools, and processes and expertise you have within your supply chain, right? You can't just put out a big goal like net zero, a big goal like 100% circular, right? And just expect it to happen. You identify the right people who are doing the right things to make that change happen. You give them you equip them with the tools and information they need to get that done. And then also you recognize and celebrate, right? So one of the things that we do in Cisco is the Cisco's Champions of Sustainability and Supply Chain. It's actually public. If you want to take a look, you can just Google Cisco Supply Chain Champions of Sustainability. And we're recognizing all kinds of folks. I mean, it's people you might expect, right? It's folks who are doing engineering, applying those circular design principles, right? And really driving change in their designs. It includes commodity managers who are helping us address and resolve issues around human rights, but also includes people like in our mergers and acquisitions team, right? Who've actually embedded some due diligence in our process that we do acquire a new company. We have all the pieces in place, or folks who are working in IT and technology who are helping us change those systems and incorporate ESG factors into how we're doing the business, tools and processes today. So again, it's about finding the expertise, leveraging the expertise, making it relevant to the business goals and the overall sustainability goals, and celebrating and marking that progress as you go.
Thank you so much, Maria. You just heard from Maria Gorsuch-Kennedy, Director of Supply Chain Sustainability at Cisco.